Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of Liverpool Transfer Daily. Here on the Blood Red channel, I'm your host, Edward Kay, and I'm joined today by Liverpool.com's Ben Bocsak. And we're going to start by taking a look at some links that have been reported. Liverpool being linked once again to Ruben Neves. It's one that seems to crop up every year or so. He seems to get linked to a fair few top European sides, Liverpool and Barca, just a few that seem to get linked quite often with him off the top of my head. Ben, he's entered the last 18 months of his contract, which is, I think, where these links have come from. So maybe a player whose price is falling as time goes on. Do you think that means Liverpool could be going in for him in the summer or even in January?
I think it's more realistic if we're talking about this January window, just because Liverpool don't really have that many options, but also kind of need a midfielder. I know Klopp has said it's unlikely, it's probably not going to happen, but if you're looking at midfielders who seem competent enough to sort of give Liverpool a boost in the midfield area, I think Neves is one of them. He's done well in the Premier League. Maybe you'd have some concerns mobility-wise, whether he has the speed to sort of like adapt to Liverpool's game. But if you're looking at his statistics, his numbers in the Premier League, he's exactly kind of the type of midfielder that Liverpool need. He wins his defensive duels at a high percentage, and he's good at intercepting the ball as well. And Liverpool kind of lack that presence at the moment, especially with Fabinho not being in particularly good form. So yeah, and obviously the other factor as well is that Liverpool don't want to spend too much money on in the January window. And if Neves does have 18 months running out of his contract, then it could kind of be the perfect deal, the perfect opportunity to sort of get him on the cheap. They kind of have a bargaining edge, so to say, in terms of, well, look, you're going to probably be able to sell him for less in the summer when he has a year left on his contract. And again, another aspect where I think a summer deal might not necessarily make sense is the fact that Liverpool have been linked with Nunez as well from Wolves. So if I think it's highly unrealistic that Liverpool would go for two players in the same window from Wolverhampton, and it seems like Nunez is the priority.
Yeah, and Liverpool have sort of been linked with a fair few relatively unknown quantities in midfield of late. But Ruben Neves, you think, joined Wolves in 2017, I think it was. So he's entering his sixth year in the Premier League now. He's obviously got a lot of Premier League experience there. And when you look at other players that have been targeted, one we're going to come on to later, Moises Caicedo, has barely played 30-odd games for Brighton. So do you think Ruben Neves having that wealth of Premier League experience is another reason why Liverpool might look to get him in?
Yeah, I think so. I think, right now, this Liverpool midfield is probably looking for some sort of experience, not necessarily too much experience. I mean, I don't think Liverpool will go for a 30-year-old, but Neves is sort of like the sort of perfect in between. He's still in the prime of his career. I think he's 25 or 26, so still relatively young. You can get a few years out of him, but at the same time, he's got so much experience. Like you said, he's played in the Championship, he's played in the Premier League. He's obviously done well in Portugal as well. He's been around for ages, it seems like, ever since he was a teenager, breaking through at Porto. So I do think he would be a decent addition. Probably doesn't fix all of Liverpool's problems, but right now I think even one midfielder would improve Liverpool, and I think Neves is that sort of midfielder.
Yeah, as you say, he's been around for so long. One of those players who you just assume he's around 30, and then you actually check and no, yeah, he is indeed 25. A few people in the comments shouting that he's a bit of an old one. Obviously, everyone agreeing with us there that he has been around for quite some time. But we'll move on to Moises Caicedo now. And in talking about him, obviously, we're going to touch on Liverpool's chastening defeat to Brighton. He was part of a Brighton midfield that absolutely overrun Liverpool's. And obviously, with the Reds having targeted him, do you think they're going to be even more sort of invigorated to go after the Ecuadorian now, Ben?
Yeah, I think that performance for Brighton was very convincing from Caicedo. I mean, albeit I think it was against a very poor Liverpool midfield, so it's difficult to sort of judge or analyze him that much really, based on just that performance. But Caicedo has been doing really well in general for Brighton this season and in the World Cup. So I think Klopp does like to go for players who impress and sort of catch his eye against him for Liverpool. We've seen that recently with Nunez and Diaz. So I think surely that sort of performance would entice Liverpool to make a move, but it's all about the price tag. And if you're talking about Brighton, that sort of performance also helps Brighton in the way that they can up the price by another 10, 20 million and say, look, like this is what he can do. And if then on the negotiation table with Liverpool, they can show them that game and see like you're desperate for him. You need someone like him. And I think that gives Brighton an edge as well.
Yeah, obviously a big disparity in price probably between Ruben Neves and Moises Caicedo. Obviously, Caicedo at one point, I think they were asking for around 90 million. That did drop recently. I think we discussed it when it'd come down to around 65 million. But as you say, who knows? Maybe it just took another big leap again after that performance against Liverpool. Do you think then that Ruben Neves is the more realistic option, certainly for a January transfer, given the differences in price?
It feels like it. I think he is a lot more realistic in terms of just his contract situation as well, and I think I can't see Liverpool sort of making a gamble in this window on a big money player, especially when Jude Bellingham is there in the summer, and we know it's probably the worst kept secret alive that Liverpool are interested in him and would like to bring him to Anfield. Whether that's going to be possible, only time will tell. But I think it certainly feels like Liverpool are putting most of their chips in that basket and waiting it out until the summer. So if they're going to go for a cheap option, I think you can't really go wrong with Neves. He's got that experience. He's still relatively young, and he's not the most extraordinary player. He's not going to impress, but I think he's competent enough that he can improve that Liverpool midfield. And I think right now Liverpool just need competency really and some defensive solidity, and that's what Neves can bring.
Yeah, I want to put a bit of a hypothetical to you here. Obviously, you've mentioned Jude Bellingham there, and Liverpool are certainly really hanging their hats on that one in the summer, aren't they? But if we ignore Bellingham just for now, if Liverpool were to go out and get a Neves in January and then a Caicedo in the summer, do you think that would be enough, or do you think they still need more in the midfield?
That's a difficult question. I mean, I think it all depends on who's going as well. I think if you have the likes of Milner, Keita, and Chamberlain all leaving in the same summer, I would like to see possibly one more, maybe a sort of another sort of young midfielder, even probably younger than Caicedo, a sort of teenage talent for the future. The equivalent of a Bellingham, just maybe for less money. And I think I really do think Liverpool definitely need at least two midfielders, if not three, in the summer. It feels like now is the perfect time. If you look at the age of that Liverpool midfield, Fabinho is getting close to 30. Thiago, Henderson are both in their 30s now, and I think Liverpool need to start building for the future. And for me, I think definitely at least two, but I would prefer to have three.
Yeah, I think seeing Liverpool's basically strongest starting midfield get torn apart like that against Brighton has really exposed just how much of a need there is for some recruitment in that midfield area. But that is all we've got time for today on Liverpool Transfer Daily. So, Ben, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.